to our next episode of the Hormone Café. Today we're going to talk about a really, really important topic, and that is some core mindset shifts for our health journey. Because if you've been trying to get pregnant for a long time, or you're trying to balance your hormones, you're trying to manage your PCOS, you're trying to heal your endometriosis or your gut or your inflammation, it can feel like it's taking forever. You're doing all the right things and nothing is working. So our goals today are, we want to think about some of the mindset shifts that we want to use to always make ourselves as mentally healthy as possible and to encourage us to stay as positive and not lose hope and not give up on our bodies. So we want to reduce our sense of urgency and panic, reduce our sense of comparing ourselves to other people, and reduce burnout. And we want to increase our patience, our consistency, and our trust in the process. No one really prepares you for how mentally draining a health or fertility journey is. And it can be really a roller coaster where you have a lot of hope and you're trying something else and then you feel like it's not working and you can get really low. So today we're going to talk about how to think about the journey so we don't burn out or lose trust in our bodies, okay? But I think one thing that's extremely important is that we don't, of course, want to always have a quick fix, right? We want to invest in this process of learning about our bodies and supporting them long term. And one thing that we have to remember is that healing naturally takes a lot of time. Our hormones aren't going to shift overnight, and sometimes our cycles take months to reflect changes. If we think about the average life cycle of an egg, the egg that you're ovulating this month actually started getting recruited 3 or 4 months ago. So all the changes that you're making this month in order to balance your hormones, improve your estrogen curves, are helping your body ovulate better and healthier eggs literally 3 to 4 months in the future. So the things that you're doing now will build up over time. And then also your body needs consistency. Okay, that's extremely, extremely important. So let's go through some of the biggest mindset shifts that we want to think about just to keep ourselves as positive as possible through the journey. So number one, you have to think of it as a process of learning, not a quick fix, okay? There's no such thing as failing. There's just learning and gathering data. Because sometimes we feel like we invested all this time or all this money into this thing and then it didn't work. Don't think of it as a failure. Think of it as a learning process, okay? Because sometimes you need to close a door to know that that's not a path which you need to go down. For example, when we think about endometriosis is extremely common, and it's now almost in 1 in 8 women. But not everybody has endometriosis, right? Sometimes we're on this journey and we think, oh, maybe I have endometriosis, and then we do surgery and we discover you don't have endometriosis and you have something else. Like, it's not that you failed and you don't have endo. It's just that now you know that you don't have endometriosis, and that's not something that we need to focus on or worry about with regards to your body, okay? So you are not failing. You're just learning. You're learning what your body needs. You're learning what is good for it, what it's not good for it, what you have and what you don't have, okay? So every cycle that you have, every month that goes by, it gives you more information, okay? It's your body giving you feedback. And whatever that feedback is, we want to try to adjust for the next cycle, right? So maybe we had pain when we ovulated that wasn't normal. Maybe we had a lot of PMS symptoms, or we were irritable or angry. Instead of thinking, oh man, that didn't work, think, okay, this is some data that my body's giving me, and I'm going to use that data to improve for the next cycle, okay? So it's definitely a process of learning. Another mental mind shift that we need to make is timeline is not equal to outcome, because one of the biggest mental traps that we think of is, oh, it's taking longer, something must be wrong. However, healing hormones is not linear, okay? Faster doesn't mean better or more sustainable. Sometimes it does take a longer time for us to heal our gut microbiome or bring down our inflammation or treat our estrogen dominance, okay? Sometimes you actually need to take the time to do that. And so we want to make sure that we're actually fixing those things and not just rushing our body, okay? Because we want to set ourselves up for the healthiest life, the healthiest pregnancy, the healthiest postpartum, the healthiest person we can be when we're 65 years old. So it's really important to invest. And sometimes it's okay if it takes a long time because, for example, when we're a kid, right, we have 18 years of eating that affects our gut microbiome, okay? So if we're trying to change our gut microbiome, it's not going to change overnight, right? We have to make little improvements day to day to change our gut microbiome week by week and month over month, okay? So just because it's taking time doesn't mean it's not working, okay? So really take that time to heal and invest in your body and try not to be in a rush. Number 3 mindset shift that we want to do is consistency matters more than perfection. If you're somebody like me and you're very type A and OCD and you want everything to be perfect and everything done 100%, that can be really, really hard because we feel like we need to make everything perfect, okay? But we don't need the perfect diet. We don't need the perfect workouts. We just need repeatable habits, okay? Something that's 80% good is better than something that isn't done at all, okay? So 80% done is better than not done at all. So instead of thinking that every single thing has to be perfect in order to initiate it, just initiate the non-perfect, okay? I know that's really hard if you're somebody like me and you think, okay, well, I have to have this perfect PCOS diet planned out before I just overhaul my entire diet. Don't feel like you have to have it 100% perfect. Just start with the next step, okay? Because your hormones are going to respond to what you do consistently, not what you do occasionally, okay? So for consistently eating enough protein, consistently limiting our sugar, that's going to affect our estrogen curves for an entire month, okay? But if we just do that every once in a while, it's not enough to build a solid foundation of being able to make estrogen, progesterone, testosterone in proper amounts, okay? Number 4, your body is not broken, it's responding. Because sometimes we think, why isn't my body working? Instead, we want to shift to, what is my body trying to tell me, okay? Because that helps us reduce frustration and build trust in our body. So if we're doing a gut health cleanse, for example, and we're still having bloated or gas, don't think, oh man, it's not working. The gut health cleanse isn't working. Think, okay, this is a signal to my body that we need to be doing something different, okay? So if we're still having bowel movements every couple days or once a week, or we're feeling bloated every time we eat, or we get stomach pain, it just means that we need to shift gears a little bit and do a little bit more discovery and change something up, okay? So your body isn't broken. It's literally this wonderful organism that's telling you exactly what it needs, okay? So really listen to your body. It would tell you what it needs, okay? Number 5, you can't compare timelines, okay? Because when we're in this journey, we go on Instagram and everybody that we know is getting pregnant right away and they're having no problems, right? Or they're eating really badly and they go to McDonald's all the time and they're still able to get pregnant. Or they have PCOS and they don't have any weight gain and they don't have any acne and all kinds of things. You know, we're all going to have those friends who are completely different than us, okay? Every single person has a different history, a different stress load, a different nutrient status, a different hormone baseline, okay? So do not compare yourself to anybody else, okay? That's nice for them, but that's their story. That's their journey. That's not going to be your story in your journey. So make sure that you really look into yourself and learn about your own body and what it needs and learn how to nourish it instead of comparing yourself to somebody else, okay? Number 6, mental mind shift that we need to make, more is not better, okay? Sometimes we get into this trap of like more supplements, more workouts, more diet restriction, and that can often backfire hormonally, okay? Because for example, sometimes people come to me and they literally have 20 different supplements and capsules. But each of those supplements and capsules is usually either glycerin or microcrystalline cellulose. Your liver is not designed to digest 20 capsules of microcrystalline cellulose every single day, okay? So more is not always better. Like that can really overwhelm your liver. So you just need to have a good, healthy balance, okay? If we have a specific goal, or supplements, for example, let's say we're trying to work on egg quality, we do a couple egg quality supplements that are going to give you the highest outcome, okay? Not every single egg quality supplement that we see on TikTok. So your body heals in safety, not in extremes, okay? Because Sometimes we want to change something and we want to change something really rigorously, really quick overnight, which is easy to do, right? Okay, we're going to do this workout routine. We're going to do this fitness thing. We're going to do it 5 days a week with our friends. It's just really easy to burn out if that's not what your body is healthily designed to do, okay? So always make sure that your body is low stressed, nourished, and safe, and don't overwhelm it with too much of something, okay? Number 7, small shifts compound. And that can be really hard when we want to see outcomes as fast as possible, but you want to focus on the small everyday things. And sometimes it's helpful to have a theme each week or each month to help change some of those things where we can have long-term consistency over time. So for example, just literally getting better sleep will compound and decrease our oxidative stress, right? Which really, really helps our egg quality. And sometimes people say that it's boring. So sometimes, for example, a lot of my patients will say, oh man, I'm just eating eggs every single morning, eggs and sausage. It's so boring. But you know what? Your food does not always have to be so exciting. Like, just let it be boring, okay? Just get your protein in, eat your eggs. It's okay if it's boring. We need air to breathe, right? Like, breathing is boring. We're not like, oh man, breathing is boring. This air is boring. I need different air. You just breathe the air that you have. It's super boring. Air is life-giving. You just breathe all the time. Food can be the same way, okay? Like, food can be exciting. We're going to a fun restaurant. We want it to taste amazing. We're going to make something fun. But on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't have to be exciting. Just keep it stable. Keep it boring, okay? The boring habits are the ones that change your hormones. And then I would say number 9, you're allowed to experiment, okay? You want to make sure that, of course, you have the basics down and then run little experiments on your body, right? For example, one big thing that I say is try to eat a paleo breakfast, okay? Eat a paleo breakfast. Don't have any carbohydrates in your breakfast. See how that feels. If you're a person who doesn't do well with a paleo breakfast and in an hour you're hangry, okay, then go in and add some high quality carbohydrates, right? Like a half a piece of high quality grain toast or put some fruit on your yogurt, okay? So experiment with things. Oftentimes I talk to patients who are athletes and they're doing a lot of fasted workouts. And so it can really either stress them out and decrease their blood sugar, or they can put their body in ketosis and it can really raise their blood sugar. So both of those things can be a form of stress. So I say, okay, why don't you run an experiment on yourself, right? Like one day do a workout when you're fasted, and then very next day have a little banana or a protein smoothie before that workout and see how that feels. And some people say, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. Dr. P, I have so much more energy. And some people say, nope, that's terrible for my body. I felt horrible. I can't digest if I eat before I work out. So totally, it's okay to run little experiments on your body and just see what feels best to you, okay? There's no one size fits all. You're not doing it wrong. You're just figuring out what works for you and what feels good, okay? And sometimes what the evidence shows is not always the perfect thing for your body, right? Like there's a lot of evidence coming out that we shouldn't be doing fasted workouts, but that is not every single person's body. If you're a body that does amazing with fasting workouts, you feel great, it doesn't change your blood sugar, it doesn't stress out your body, then that's perfect. That can be something that you continue to do, okay? And then number 9, I just want to make sure that you always trust in your body, okay? Because there can be a lot of confusion, a lot of frustration, a lot of fear in this process. And so we just want to rebuild trust in our bodies slowly by really listening to them. And things that we can do to do that are just, of course, be aware of our bodies and what we're feeling, tracking things. So tracking our hormones, tracking our sleep, putting our symptoms into our phone or putting our symptoms into our trackers. And then just remember, of course, that less is more and small habits compound, okay? So let's talk about some things that can kind of get in the way of these positive mind shifts that we're trying to make. There are some common patterns, right? Like, I tried this for 2 weeks and it didn't work. Like, I did this gut health cleanse. I took this egg quality supplement. I started this new protein powder and it's not helping me and it didn't work. So one thing that we want to reevaluate is that the right thing for our bodies, and are we doing it consistently enough to see a long-term change, okay? Another big thing that gets in the way, of course, is comparison on social media. You'll see people post all kinds of things on social media, but you never know what's going on behind the scenes, right? You don't know what that person's nutrition is, their hormone profile, their body, Who cares, right? That's not your body. You just pay attention to your body and what it needs. Another thing that we tend to do is kind of get into this like all or nothing thinking. Like, I'm either going to do none of it, scrap that, or I'm going to do everything. And that can be really draining and taxing on our body. So you just want to pick one or two things to work on every single week or every single month. And then it also helps to just make a little checklist for yourself and make sure you're doing the things that you want to do and the goals that you're wanting to accomplish, because sometimes it's really easy to just go really, really hard and try to do everything at once and then get super burnt out and then say, screw it, we're not going to do any of that. Okay. So really you want to go from this all or none thinking to doing little things every single week, every single day, every single month to slowly build on your good habits, keep yourself healthier. And then the last thing is, a lot of times we can over-research and that gives us a sense of control, right? Okay, I'm going to research all the topics I possibly can on PCOS and look at all the blogs and all the groups and all the Instagram posts. And sometimes that can actually be really toxic for our mental health and can be really, really overwhelming because, again, there's all kinds of tips out there, but sometimes those things just aren't the perfect thing for you and your body. So it is helpful to have a physician, have a provider, to have somebody in your corner to help you scale down some of those things. For example, I always encourage my patients, if they read something on TikTok or they hear something from a friend or somebody says, hey, try this supplement, send it to me. We'll look at it. We'll decide if it's the right thing for your body, right? So for example, if you Google PCOS, a lot of times people will say, oh, you should be on myo-inositol, for example. But myo-inositol is not universally good for every single body that has PCOS, right? There's a lot of different forms of PCOS. So send it to me. We'll look at it and we'll decide, okay, is that the right thing for your type of PCOS in your body? Because just because it was good for somebody else doesn't mean that it's good for you. Okay. So try not to get into that trap of over researching things. Keep it small and manageable. Otherwise you're going to get really overwhelmed. Okay. So you just want to stay grounded throughout the journey, focus on 2 or 3 habits at a time, track the simple things, right? Track your cycle, write down how your energy levels, how you're feeling, any PMS symptoms that you have, your sleep. Limit your changes so that it doesn't feel like you have to overhaul everything all at once. Take social media breaks. It's extremely important. Take little recovery from social media days where you literally just focus on yourself and you don't compare yourself to anyone else, okay? So the work that you're doing right now, it's not just about getting pregnant or about fixing your PCOS, right? It's about understanding your body, supporting your hormones, and setting yourself up for long-term health so you feel amazing every single day. You feel rejuvenated. You feel like you're empowered. You've learned about your body. You know what it needs, because we want to have excellent energy every single day. We want to understand what our hormones are doing, understand our red flags, have an amazing healthy pregnancy, an amazing healthy postpartum, feel amazing in menopause or perimenopause, okay? So my homework for you is that I want you to pick one mindset shift from this episode and carry it into the week, okay? Write a little affirmation on a sticky note, post it on your mirror, and focus on that one thing so that we don't get discouraged and that we always have that trust and love of our bodies, okay? So the journey is not a delay. It's an investment in our health and our future. If you need any help with this, please don't hesitate to contact us. We do a lot of mental health, mindset work here at Vera Health and Fertility because your mental health is extremely, extremely important. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Hormone Café, and stay tuned for our future episodes.